Hello, my name is Olivia Atkins and I'm a writer at The Drum, and today I'm speaking with Debbie Ellison, Global Chief Digital Officer at VML Y&R Commerce, and David Conn, Customer and E-Commerce Director at Heels. We're here to talk about the upcoming changes to the high street and take a look at the prominence of online retail as digital consumers are shopping online more than ever. We'll take an inside look at the strategies retailers and their partners are putting in place for what they hope will be bustling holiday shopping seasons ahead. Debbie, do you want to kickstart things off? What are you seeing as some of the shopper trends that you think will have the biggest impact on customer experience?
Thanks, Liv. Thank you also for having me here today. So I think when we're thinking about kind of shopper trends, one of the things that I have been talking to a number of our clients about is really Gen Z. And it might sound a bit cliche to talk about a new generation of shoppers, but I actually genuinely believe that we need to understand that generation of shoppers to have a glimpse of what is going to happen in the kind of retail space. Gen Z accounts for 32% now of the global population. They have a current spending power of $143 billion US. So huge spending power, huge influence power in this space. And some of the things that I have been seeing is that, this shift towards, brands with purpose, brands that are actively trying to have a positive impact on the world in which we live. So, 80% of Gen Z care about a brand's purpose, which I think is hugely significant. 27% really look at kind of or care about brands being more active in making the world a better place. And 24% of Gen Zers are prepared to spend more on products that are more ethically and sustainably produced. If you really understand kind of that shift and that impact, what we're seeing is are retailers really responding to that shopper need, communicating their brand and purpose at shelf, really understanding that in physical retail environments, a real understanding of the local community and how they need to serve and engage that local community, and genuinely over and beyond technology and data and all the things that you'd expect me to talk about. I think that's probably the one big single thing that's going to affect kind of shopper behaviour over the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, as it happens, I couldn't agree more with Debbie. I think this sort of quest for meaning and the quest for purpose, I think, is the biggest single social trend. It's the biggest single consumer trend that we're seeing at the moment. And what that translates into retail, as Debbie said, is the importance of being a brand. The importance of being a brand that stands for something and a brand that delivers against what it stands for. Whether that is environmentalism, whether it's diversity, or whether it's simply quality and design, a brand must stand for something. We live in a world now where Amazon have basically taken over everything that is a necessity or a commodity. And so if you're to survive without basically becoming a slave to Amazon, you've got to be a brand, and you've got to be a brand that means something. The other thing I would say, and it runs a long line with this and might be slightly contradictory, is the rise of special. I think what we're seeing increasingly across all spheres of society, take travel, take entertainment, take shopping and goods, is people's desire to have something special, something which is unique to them. And what we're seeing is that the premium that people will pay for something special is significant. Just a simple example is Glastonbury. I've sat with my son trying to get Glastonbury tickets. We have 8 laptops on the go. We're basically using it like a church organist, just pressing refresh as often as we can. That's a special occasion. Everybody wants to be a part of it. And you'll see that in goods, services, entertainment, experiences, the rise of special.
We've kind of really moved away slightly from the more physical space, kind of because of everything that's been going on, and digital reliance, I guess, online has become a lot stronger. How has that changed the experience or what consumers are needing and wanting? Are there kind of any new expectations from consumers that marketers kind of need to consider?
E-commerce grew over the last year, but actually, if you look at retail sales holistically, in totality, total sales have kind of decreased by a percentage point or two, right? So we've seen that shift to online. What that does mean, of course, is that 80% of our population have bought online now, are used to buying online, are used to the, you know, price, convenience, advantages of buying online. But Liv, I genuinely think that what's happened over the last year or so is that there is that pent-up demand, back to what David was saying, around experience and wanting to get back into store and wanting to, you know, experience the special, you know, and retailers really do have to hear that and listen to that and think about how they're going to be differentiated across all of their channels, including physical retail. I'm pretty skeptical about, you know, convincing our clients to move solely into the e-commerce space without kind of that physical store interaction. And exactly what David was saying is that brand equity has to be built in multiple places, ideally for retailers. So understanding the role of those different touch points, the role of those different commerce touch points is going to be hugely, I think, important. The other thing also that I think is really interesting is the rise of social commerce as well, because we've moved all online. We are being inspired and we are purchasing within milliseconds now. You know, that gap between inspiration and purchase is now converged. And so I think what we'll see is over the next year or so is how is that going to translate in the physical retail space? You know, we are going to go back to retail stores to be inspired, to touch and feel product. You know, that's in our DNA. You know, we get a lot of joy from that. So then how do we make that retail experience more special, more differentiated and more seamless when it comes to purchase?
Yes, again, I'd have to agree with Debbie on everything she said, but we've seen that people will buy big, expensive items online. However, one of the most successful initiatives we've had has been connecting online customers with in-store teams. Now, our in-store teams weren't furloughed, so they were available even when the stores were shut. And we have a solution on our website which enables an online customer to talk to a relevant member of the store team who has knowledge, who has passion, who may even be able to visit the store and take photographs or images or videos. And we found that person-to-person interaction has been incredibly valuable in the online arena. And I think it's a slight inversion of many of the things we might have talked about today about bringing technology into the store. We've brought the store into the technology. And we've shown that there's still a massive role for person to person. One of the biggest trends that I see, and one of the biggest things that has to be addressed, whether you're a terrestrial retailer, whether you're an online retailer, is the paradox of choice. Yeah, we now have millions of options available to us when we're buying anything. And to give an example, I was looking for a 52-inch TV. If you Google 52-inch TVs, you get 2 billion pages returned by Google. So you think, well, I'll make it a little bit easier on myself. I'll Google 52-inch TV reviews. It does slim it down. It slims it down to 770 million pages. So this paradox of just incredible choice that you have available to you online, you've got to find a way of guiding the customer through that choice. And there's two principal things. The first is, as Debbie said, is becoming a brand that people trust in order for you to help guide the customer through that choice. The second thing is thinking very carefully about what the purchase journey is and trying to understand where the customer is in that purchase journey and what you can do to move them along that journey. And I think that's where some of the fusion between in-store and online come into being. For example, if you've been browsing online, maybe you can just reflect some of that experience in store, or particularly vice versa. You know, if you've been in store, you've made a query, when you go online, let's try and present the customer or the user with information that's relevant to what they're in store for. So I think countering the paradox of choice, helping a customer through what's an increasingly complex purchase journey is almost the biggest single challenge for retail at present.
It's kind of interesting to observe actually at the moment, because obviously it's coming from the marketer side but also from the consumer side at the moment, as both those needs are shifting at the same time. You mentioned, David, technology as being something that we kind of like need to work with as a way to kind of converge, the physical and digital space. What are some of those technologies that you're kind of seeing played out in retail, and which ones are you kind of seeing as the most interesting inventions used in the space?
What I think you've got to understand with the store experience is that the store experience isn't the same as the online experience. It is different. It works in a different way. Now, clearly, there are elements of the brand that have got to be consistent, yeah. But you're in the store. It's a more sensory experience. So how can you bring out the more sensory experience? It's a more social experience. How can you make sure that your service and your interactions with people are greater and more effective? And I think another big thing for me about the store experience is serendipity. When you walk into a store, nowadays you're not going for necessities. Yeah, if you've got a necessity, you can have it same day from Amazon or from one of the other titans of e-commerce. Yeah, the reason you're going into a store is because you want some inspiration. You want to see something you didn't expect. You want to solve a problem that's difficult to solve in another environment. And I think that's where technology has to apply itself, is helping the customer through that purchase journey. I'll give you one example of something we have done at Heels. We've done quite a lot of work on product visualization. And by that I mean, when you're looking at a sofa, you can walk into a store, you see lots of fabric swatches, but it's pretty difficult to visualize what the sofa will look like when it's bedecked in that fabric. So we've created a piece of tech which enables the customer to see this sofa in this fabric. We did it for online, but you'd be amazed how often it's used on the shop floor in the interaction between the shop floor team and the customer. It's a piece of technology that spans both, but is used in a slightly different way. And I think looking forward, we'll see a lot more tools that help the customer visualize product, particularly for us. I know it may not apply to other retail industries, but help the customer visualize what this product is going to look like in their space. Help them design the space, help them imagine what it might look like. Take them into the Heels world, this fabulous world of beautiful furniture and things.
Technology that is almost back office. What do you need in the back office that's going to make the consumer experience the very best it can be? Whether that is using heat mapping technology to understand how consumers are navigating your spaces, or whether you're using automatic stock check technology, which means that actually when your shoppers have spent time coming to your store, that actually there is product there on the shelves, right? So I think what's interesting is the automation of some of that kind of back office servicing to make sure that when the shopper does come in store, it is the best experience. And then I think there is technology that addresses the consumer experience. To David's point, what is it that we can provide in store that is going to deliver that special? So whether that is using data that may have been gleaned from your e-commerce environment and helping sales assistants, sales advisors provide a more one-to-one and personal experience, right? Everything that we can do in the e-commerce space, but yet I don't think has really infiltrated the physical retail environment. How can we use that data to create a more personalized and relevant experience in store? So, the use of digital screens in store to reflect the fact that it's really sunny outside. It's not in the UK, by the way, for anyone that's watching this, but, if it's really sunny outside, we can do a special on ice creams, in the moment, in real time. We've built out a number of these experiences for our clients. Like David said, we've got to be careful that we're not falling into the gimmick. So we've got to really understand how some of this technology can be used to scale to create those connected experiences. But I think one of the things, David was talking about being at the laptop with his son trying to get Glastonbury tickets. I was with my son not too long ago at their new Amazon Go stores, right? And he loved the experience, the seamlessness of being able to walk in store, pick up what you want, and then leave, and having a notification on your Amazon app. And he genuinely reflected that actually retail environments haven't step changed in a very long time. And so again, just looking at that next generation who've grown up in a world of convenience, seamless payment, et cetera, et cetera. How is that impacting the physical retail environments? I think we're going to probably see an acceleration of that in the years to come.
Well, one thing I would add as well is storytelling. The view in store has quite often been that the store itself tells the story, and you've done that through graphics, you've done it through merchandising, you've done it through the product. But I do think technology has a big potential role to play in storytelling. And of course, the biggest single piece of technology in store that we haven't so much talked about is the phone that the customer carries. When I started looking at in-store tech 15, 20 years ago, the phone simply didn't even exist. You're looking at trying to do something that now you can do. Every single customer can do it because they've got the most powerful device imaginable in the palm of their hand. And I think thinking about how you can tell stories through the phone as well as putting screens up in store or doing whatever other digital activity you do, I think that's a really big, fruitful avenue for you to look at.
So tell me, kind of, how are you both preparing your businesses from an agency perspective and from a brand perspective for these changes?
Clients are becoming more and more overwhelmed because there are so many commerce channels, so many opportunities to connect with people, to connect with shoppers. And it's really hard to understand which to prioritise, which are really going to make the most impactful experience on the shoppers and on consumers. So a couple of years ago, I set up this concept of the flagship, both in London and New York, in our headquarter spaces. And really the flagship is 6 projectors mounted in the ceiling that enables us to recreate immersively for clients what that connected consumer experience might look like. One of the challenges that we know, especially within large organisations, is that the e-commerce team, the in-store team, the social team work in silos. And actually it can be quite difficult in those organisations to really connect all of those touch points in what will be that end kind of shopper experience. And so within the flagships, what we can do is use over 160 of our virtual retail environments to really bring that connected experience to life for clients, to really understand, to David's point, how the mobile phone, how social commerce might influence the physical retail environment, the e-commerce environment. How do we bring that all together to build that special, to build that brand equity that David so eloquently spoke about? How do you show up in that kind of unified commerce way or that connected way to your consumers? Because quite frankly, shoppers are switching between these channels at a really crazy rate. And so how do you just get into the mindset of who's buying from you? How do you understand where those pain points are? How do you know when to communicate and what to communicate? And the flagships really are our ability to do that and demonstrate to clients kind of what their shopper experience is of their brand and retail spaces.
I don't know how well you know Heels, but we are a special brand. We sell really nice stuff. It makes people happy, to own our furniture and our homewares. But I think what we found difficult is to express that in the digital environment. And so we're currently going through a process of trying to work out what is the content that we need in order to really express the meaning and the purpose of our brand digitally. But I think at present we do a much better job in store, almost by definition of the fact that it is a store, that it is a physical environment, that it is a nice place to wander around. So a lot of our focus is going into this storytelling, is going into content, is going into the look and feel, just to see how can we really reinforce to our customers and to our prospective customers what we stand for, how good the product is, how well designed it is. The other thing that runs alongside that, and I think is a real challenge for digital marketeers, is the balance of marketing spend. Most digital marketers are very boring. Yeah, we love ROI. Yeah, it's all about PPC. It's all about cost per click. But I think we've got to revert back to the old days when you spent money on TV. When you spent money on PR initiatives. without having any real idea of how well that they would do. And I think that's a real challenge for a brand like us, a relatively small brand, is taking ourselves out of that performance marketing mentality and into one which is more of a sort of brand awareness, brand consideration, brand development thing. And I think that's a challenge for many, many small, medium retailers at present.
By the sounds of it, David, you mentioned the kind of role that Gen Z had in shaping this change in retail experience. I'm just kind of curious whether there's anything that brands or retailers can do to ensure they're kind of catering to other generations beyond Gen Z, because sometimes it can slightly feel that they're the new exciting generation pushing all this change, but which is perhaps where we start to embrace new technologies and new experiences. But is there anything that can be done to ensure that all generations are kind of included and still catered to?
I think one thing, diversity is a sort of hot word at the moment, but I think it's very important not so much to have diversity in the sort of racial or gender sense, but it's important to have diversity of thought around the table. Yeah, there's always a danger in whatever you do that you surround yourself with people like you. I'm a very sort of logical, straightforward person. I need someone creative alongside me who's going to annoy me most of the time.
I like that David's pointing at me, by the way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I need someone creative alongside me who's going to come up with a load of things that will annoy me, but actually is going to make me think about things. I need someone who's a bit nicer on the other side. We need somebody a bit younger, yeah. And I do think diversity around the board table, listening to the people within your own organisation who may not think in the same way that you do. To me, that's been a really interesting thing actually with lockdown. We've probably done more listening in lockdown as an organisation than we ever did in real life. And so I do think that's the big thing. Listen to your own people, listen to your customers, because they will say things that are unexpected, force you to rethink, and frequently lead to action that you would not otherwise have taken.
The biggest threat is not understanding your shopper and what they need and what they want from you, right? Because to David's point, we are now overwhelmed with choice, right? So if I want something, I am going to find it. You know, a brand that we work on that sells black hair care and black skincare products, right? And actually, you know, women are shopping by, you know, their hair type, whether that's 3A hair type, 4B hair type, etc. And so rather than just sell them a shampoo or a conditioner for that hair type, why are we not saying, okay, we know you've got 4C hair type, this is the shampoo, conditioner and curling cream that you need, etc. And I just don't think enough manufacturers, enough retailers really understand how shoppers are shopping, what their shopper needs are. A lot of them are targeting, even on Google search, you know, branded keywords. People don't search branded keywords, well, hardly ever. I mean, they probably actually do in heels, but for a lot of categories, they don't. So how do we understand how people are searching, what their need states are, and create experiences, products that marry to that?
Can you anticipate what the next driver for transformational change in retail will be?
For me, the big thing is purpose and meaning. You know, whether it's Gen Z or whether it's normal people, this is going to be the story for the next X number of years. And I think any brand that is not acting with purpose and meaning will die. Yeah, it's going to be the thing which will drive most change.
And are there kind of any lessons or case studies that you'd like to kind of bring up as kind of pivotal, you know, examples of brands that have either been doing it well that we can learn from?
So I'll kind of respond to that question, Liv. You know, I mentioned earlier the work that we've done with a particular client to develop out kind of the branch of the future experience. And one of the things that, you know, we were talking to the client about is you cannot judge the experience that you create against your competitors in the category. What you really need to do is you have to judge, you know, that branch experience against the Charlotte Tilburys of the world, and then Nike flagship stores of the world, the Apple stores of the world, because your shoppers are not saying, okay, I have a really great experience with this particular bank because it's better than all the other banks. That's not what they're doing. They're saying, how does this experience, you know, level up with when I walk into a MAC cosmetic store, or whether I walk into a technology store. So I'd like to call that out, because I think it was a major transformation in the branch experience itself. And that brings together a lot of different types of technology: heat mapping technology, responsive and contextual digital signage, supported conversations through, iPads and content, etc. So I think what we are seeing, at least as an agency, is we are being asked to help understand and define what the vision for banking, pharmacy, etc. But not only that, how do they get there? How do we help them connect their teams that often work in silos to be able to deliver against that vision? The other thing I would also say is that we need to do a lot of test and learns, right? I think gone are the days where, we find a bit of technology, or we find a new capability or service, and we scale that out across multiple places and spaces at any one time.
I think that one brand I really like, and I've got to be honest, I don't know whether they have any technology at all, but is Timpson's shoes. They always strike me as being the ultimate in caring about their staff and caring about their customer. Their whole ethos is built on those two foundations. And you can see it reflected in everything they do. They see themselves as a member of the community. That for me is going to be an important element of retailing look forward. In my sector, there's some interesting operators. I mean, for sure, some have grown at great speed. Some have grown at great speed without making any money, which is always interesting. But probably in my sector, the company I think has the best omni-channel experience is Sofology, because I think they're the company that has used tech in the most positive way. They capture your journey in store, and they then reflect that journey through a range of different marketing devices, tools, in order to get you over the finishing line, which is buying the sofa. And in fact, they take it then after you bought the sofa. So I think they're an interesting operation for the way in which they capture the purchase journey and use it to, I'll say, to make the sale, but also, you're only going to make the sale if you're genuinely helping the customer. So I think they're doing a pretty good job.
What advice would you give to brands wanting to unify their commerce experience for their customers?
I'd say one simple thing is, once you've decided what it is you want to offer your customer, then make that your absolute focus. Don't get seduced by tech that looks nice or that has bells and whistles. Think about, does this improve the customer journey? Yeah, does it really add value? And that's true for whether it's online tech or whether it's in-store tech. Does it help them make the right decision? Does it help inspire them? Does it help them buy it? Do not be seduced by bells, whistles, and shiny things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think not enough people walk in the shoes of their consumers, their shoppers. They don't really look at how the brand shows up in all of those different places and spaces through the eyes of their consumer. And Liv, that's why we created the flagship, right? To be able to do that and to be able to recreate kind of that unified commerce experience. Like, how are our social communications, our social stores connected to our physical environments, connected to our e-commerce? What is that connected experience, and where are the gaps? What isn't quite right? What is going to cause frustration with our shoppers? How do we remove that? How could we use technology to enhance conversations between our sales advisors and our shoppers? Or how could we use technology to connect people and to understand people between those different channels? I think is going to be really important. So I'd say that's what manufacturers and retailers really need to do, is walk the shoes of shoppers, step into those shoes, and really be critical about the connected experience that you are creating.
No, thank you both. Thank you for being such a wonderfully complimentary duo. I kind of half expected it to be a bit of a tumble and a feisty fight, but
So
it's been very interesting to hear both sides of it. And that's it for me. That's obviously it's been the reinvention of retail and e-commerce deep dive. And based on what you guys have said, it's the importance of brand purpose and really listening to consumers it kind of shines out as some of the key takeaways that marketers and retailers alike kind of need to listen to, regardless of whether that's in their digital or physical outlets. So I think there's a lot there that our viewers can take away and build on for their own lessons. And yeah, thank you again for all your thoughts. And we'll follow up with a write-up shortly.